Renting your spare room through Airbnb can be a profitable side gig, but if you want to supercharge your profits, becoming a super host is the way to go. But how? Cherie Barber, creator of Airbnb For Profit, joins us now. Cherie,
hey guys.
Great to see you again.
Thank you.
I feel like we never even get the chance to miss you. It's lovely. Just part of the team.
To be a super host, do you need like a cape?
Yeah, are we super hosts?
Absolutely.
We are super hosts.
You are,
Yeah.
without
We are.
question.
Yeah.
What's a super host?
Basically, a super host is, there's different tiers in Airbnb. So a super host is a shining example of what Airbnb hopes all hosts will be. So they're basically, it's like, if you compared it to like an employee in a company, it's like your top performers.
How do you get to be a super host?
Well, it's not a straightforward process, but it's not extremely difficult either. So you've got to meet a set of criteria. So you've got to host a minimum of 10 stays per year. You've basically got to have a certain number, like 80% of your guest reviews. So when somebody checks into your property, they'll stay there. When they check out, they will leave a review. They'll tell the public how wonderful or how bad you were as a host. And in order to obtain the superhost status, you've got to get a minimum of 80% of 5-star reviews. So that forces the host of a property to actually like keep their game at a fairly high level. You've also got to respond to 90% of any incoming guest inquiries within 24 hours. So on Airbnb, you get lots of people saying, "Hi, I really like the look of your property. Would you mind parties?" Or, you know, "I've got a dog. Would you take a dog?" Or, you know, "Would you accept a discounted rate?" So you've got to respond to them within 24 hours. If you don't, it lowers your ranking. And these are really important things. Like people go, "Well, you know, what's the motivation for actually meeting these targets?" Well, the motivation is becoming a superhost, because once you reach superhost status, it elevates your listing up on Airbnb's platform. So technically, more people see your property, which does result in more bookings.
The really interesting one was that last point too of never cancelling a booking. I've been in the position on my way to an Airbnb in Italy, and I got the message it was cancelled in Dubai, and I'm going there to stay there. Like, it was a nightmare and so much stress. So it's not common, but it has happened. So that's a really good thing to reach that higher status, to not cancel.
It is.
You make so much planning on it, don't you?
Yeah, well, it's a good thing for travellers in that instance, because when somebody books a property with a superhost, they know that's not going to happen to them. And if you cancel one booking as a superhost, you instantly lose your superhost status. So as soon as you lose that superhost status, you catapult, you like literally do a big nosedive down into the general pool of listings.
It's just like in life, credibility, years to earn, seconds to lose.
So yeah, there is definitely different tiers on Airbnb. So if I try to explain it in layman's speak, you've got 3 tiers essentially. You've got your general pool of listings. So when somebody becomes, they decide to either rent out their spare room or their property, their own home or an investment property on Airbnb, until you become a superhost, you fall into the general pool. It's like the big pool of all Airbnb listings, and you're ranked at the lowest level. So people, they'll see your sort of property last. The next level up is the superhost, and so that's why you've got to reach those targets, because once you move out of the general pool of listings, more people are going to see eyes on your property, which means you've just got a much higher chance of actually securing a booking. And then there's the next level up, which is Airbnb Plus. This is I know it sounds snazzy, doesn't it?
Really cool. Yeah. I want to be there.
Yeah. So what this is, Airbnb implemented this a couple of years ago. Look, what it is, it's basically, you don't have to have the most luxurious property. You just got to have a property that's styled beautifully, that's maybe a little bit quirky. There's something special about it, and that could be just the way you style it. And so when somebody searches on the Airbnb platform, the very first listings they will see is Airbnb Plus, and then the next listings they'll see is superhost listings, and then the next level is the general pool that haven't yet reached those targets. So it's really important to try and aspire to become at least a superhost, and ideally get your property into an Airbnb. And even properties out in the burbs, you know, they don't have to be harbourside mansions. You can still have a property out in the burbs that's an Airbnb Plus if you've styled it the right way.
So how do we do it? How do we get there?
How do you get to be
A super host?
Okay, well, some ways that you can become a super host is, or even just catapult your property up, is to do a couple of things. Inject some personality. You know, you want to be injecting some personality into your property. So what we do know from Airbnb is that, you know, people do like the quirky things. So if you set with becoming a super host, yes, you have to host a minimum of 10 stays per year, 90% response rate to all incoming guest inquiries. And in Airbnb, you do get a lot. Minimum 80% of 5-star reviews. You've got to get minimum 50% of guest bookings. So when people check out, they tend to forget about your property. So as a host, you've got to follow them up. Hey, can you please give me a review? If you leave me a review, I will leave you a review. It is what builds trust in the Airbnb
it's good
community.
for them too, isn't it? Because they're then coming to have an Airbnb with Sophie or I, and we look at their history to say, where have you stayed before? Are you a good tenant? As much as they want to know that we've got a good property.
Yeah, for host of, like I host a number of Airbnb properties, and one of the first things I look at when I get a booking request, particularly if it's a group, and particularly if it's a younger group sometimes, I'm looking at their guest reviews. Like, just for example, I got a booking just a couple of days ago, and it was for 8 guys that were 26 years old. It's a big sporting group. They're all around 26, and for me, I was like, do I really want a bunch of, you know, 26-year-old guys in my property? But I looked at his reviews, and they were really good. So that gave me a lot of comfort as a host that they weren't going to trash that particular
because on the
property.
face of it, it sounded really scary. Holes in the wall, big party time.
Yeah, and this is one of my properties, that probably one of my more expensive properties, and there's always that element. And he also admitted to me that as a 26-year-old, when this particular sporting group travel, they always have trouble booking a property because a lot of hosts just make the assumption they're going to trash, you know, their house, and when a lot of the time that's actually not the case.
No,
and the big thing is never cancel that booking. So as the super host, you need to make sure all your settings are right and that you haven't stuffed up anywhere down the line. In my early days when I became a super host, very silly mistake where I didn't adjust my New Year's rate. So I got somebody booking my property at New Year's when the price should have been like 5 or 6 times the price. And I couldn't cancel it because if I did, I instantly lost my super host status. So it's really important.
Super host status, does that apply to all of your properties, or is it on a property by property basis?
So once you become a super host, you just got to have 10. So let's say, for example, if you had 3 properties, it's across all of them. So you've just got to host a minimum of 10 stays across all of your property portfolio.
It's not each.
So it's actually not difficult to achieve, but you really got to make sure you are on it on the communication and you're responding quickly. So you need to set up your mobile phone alerts, your iPad alerts, like set up those notifications so you don't miss a communication, because once it ticks over 24 hours and 1 minute, you just rank a little bit lower.
Really good advice, Cherie. You're not going anywhere. We're going to keep you around for a little while and pick that amazing brain of yours in real estate. And all you 26-year-old guys out there wanting to party, become super hosts like Sophie and I, and you're going to have plenty of places to stay.
Just go hang at Cherie Barber's house. She welcomes groups of 26-year-old men, clearly. Who said that? Right, we're going to go to a quick break now. Lots more auction day here when we return.